The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the new home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders for their headquarters. We're thrilled to be here with you on this wonderful Wednesday morning. We got a great show coming up for you. We're going to start out with Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here with us. She's going to answer your questions live in just a few minutes. And then in our second hour today, it's Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, the Executive Director of Autism Care and Treatment today, will be joining me. We're thrilled to welcome her back. And our special guest today, it's the next segment in our series called Autism Family Portraits. Diane Bernstein and her son, Jeremy Bernstein, will be here. Diane is an advocate that works in the field of art with individuals who are on the autism spectrum. Her son, Jeremy, I believe Jeremy is now 14 years old, is on the autism spectrum. He is a jewelry designer, and he's going to be here with his mom, and they're going to talk about their journey and some of the things that have worked for them and some of the things that they still struggle with. So that's going to be in our second hour. I want to remind you that our entire show is meant to be interactive. We love it when you participate with us. Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can do that and also some of the different ways that you can watch the show because we're available in many different formats on many different sites. While Kelby's doing that, I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. So much to do when you go there. You can be watching the live show, watching a recently recorded live show. In fact, you can watch the 100 most recent recorded shows. You can fast forward, pause, and rewind on any of the shows except for the live one. But then after the live show is over, it's immediately available to do that with as well. Now, to the side of the computer screen where you can be watching the shows is something called the live feature. This is one of your many ways to interact with us, but it's certainly, I think, the easiest way. If all you have to do is put your cursor in the box that says your question, start typing, hit enter. There's no username, no login, no password, no credit card exchange information. It's totally free, totally anonymous, and it's pretty instantaneous. We do ask that you give us as much information as possible and that you give us an idea where you are in the world so that if we refer to resources in your area, we can do that with some authority and hopefully get it very accurately. All right, my friends, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh.
Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Good morning and welcome to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh is here with us. Good morning. We're thrilled to have her with us. She is an expert in the field of autism. I think the preeminent expert in the field of autism. She's a visionary in this field. She has helped so many families and so many individuals on the autism spectrum from early young aged babies up through adults that are even in their senior years. She is an amazing, gifted, talented person in this field, and we so appreciate, Wednesdays is supposed to be our gratitude day, and for me that always starts with gratitude for Dr. Doreen.
That's nice. I didn't know Wednesdays are gratitude day.
It is. We haven't done as well about reminding everybody that it's our gratitude day, but it's our day to pause and have gratitude. I'm always grateful for you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for reminding me to be grateful to you.
You're very welcome. It's good for all of us to remember to do that. And I want to say that I want to remind everybody right from the jump that we love it when you write in your questions for Dr. Granpeche. We want to remind you that there is no expert that can give individual specific advice in this format. That would be a disservice to those individuals, because it really, specific advice requires getting to spend some time and look at many different factors, usually in person, although there's now telehealth, that sometimes some things can be done over a Skype call, but it has to get really specific. But having said that, Dr. Granpeche really helps us to learn about different aspects of something that we may not have thought of. And I know for me, and for many of you who've written in and said that that informs us and helps us to get more when we go to our experts locally, to get more done. So we thank you for this time.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
This is a wonderful, it's a wonderful donation that you give us every
thank
week,
you.
which is fabulous.
It's good for me. It keeps me involved with what's going on in the real world and the things that people are still worried about.
Well, we appreciate it. I was just pausing over it. Sometimes this does not feel like the real world to me, but when you guys write in, that does feel like the real world. In any case, I want to start with a question that came in on the CARD Facebook site earlier last week that we promised that we would take it as the first question. So a mom wrote in and said, my child is 14, has epilepsy, ODD, SPD, and has a mild form of autism, but is very verbal and has started acting out at school. How do you decide what's bothering him? Help, we are all at our wits' end. Now, I will say that I believe that I asked that we reach back out and ask for more information, and I haven't gotten more information. One of the things I specifically asked was for them to, before we brought you in, that if we could know, has anything changed? But we haven't heard anything back.
Right, but I mean, this is the perfect example of when you need to do a functional assessment, and this is really what has to happen now. Like, so that would be someone who's trained in behavior analysis, would actually observe the individual in the school environment as well as other environments, and would see specifically what triggers those behaviors that we're concerned about, the aggression or whatever it is. And until we have figured that out, there's really nothing we can do, because we can make assumptions that something or another is triggering the behavior, but the assumptions are not always correct. And it's very important to just observe and identify what exactly happens before and after the behavior. And what happens before, obviously, we're looking at, antecedents that might cause the individual, like things like a demand being placed or an activity change where the individual doesn't want to change activities, or a variety of things. And on the consequence side, of course, we also have to see what they achieve with this behavior. Are they able to escape a particular thing? Are they able to avoid something for a period of time? Are they gaining attention? What is going on? And unless we know those things, we can't really know how to intervene appropriately.
I always use the example, because somebody gave it to me, of when something's up with our car. If something's up with your car and you go to the registered mechanic, you don't just decide to start ripping things out yourself and rearranging things. And you go to the registered mechanic, and the mechanic you don't drive in and the mechanic goes, okay, without looking at your car, I'm going to replace your brakes.
Right.
We would never do that, because it would be unsafe and it wouldn't be effective. It wouldn't be efficient. It would cost us way too much money and way too much time. The mechanic has to get under there, look at the hood, they drive it around a little bit, they do a battery of different tests. They do an assessment to see what's happening before they attempt to fix anything.
Right.
They don't just jump in and assume. And if we would be that way about our cars, we should at least be that caring about our kids.
I mean, there's no way, and the traditional many years ago concept of when a child aggresses or tantrums or has anything that we consider to be challenging behavior, the traditional way of thinking about it, the old way of thinking about it is just, it's not an okay behavior, so punish it.
Yes.
And that's not really the way ABA focuses on things. It's more about it's understanding that challenging behavior is communication, and then asking yourself, what is this individual trying to communicate to me? And that, I think, is the key to figuring out how to fix the problem. Because once you identify what the individual is trying to communicate, then you give them more functional ways of communicating that, and then they learn.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because we had a little discussion yesterday and there was a question about that in particular.
I think I saw the question. I just read something about
Yes,
that.
because there is a lovely young woman who is making videos on the internet, and it's called Ask an Autistic. And she is an adult who's on the autism spectrum, and she's made some lovely videos. And she had one that was put up over the weekend, Ask an Autistic, what is ABA?
Oh, okay.
And she gave a pretty textbook definition that includes the word punishment in it, because that is part of the definition of ABA. But then she went on to talk about, from her perspective as a person with autism, why no one should ever do ABA with their child, because they punish a child for doing a behavior that is meaningful to them. I'm really scrunching it all together, but that was the main thesis.
Sure.
And I took exception to that and said that that is not actually what good quality ABA does.
Right.
It's kind of quite the opposite. And you just brought up punishment. And somebody had written in and said that, I am somebody that my explanation about punishment they felt needed to be cleaned up a little bit by an expert. What they said was, I just watched the episode from yesterday with the jargon. You mentioned that punishment is not effective. I talked about the fact that in ABA, it's very rare that we use punishment in the way that we all think of punishment. Because it's not as effective. They said they think it's important to clarify the difference between the way punishment is used by mainstream and the way ABA uses the term punishment. It isn't bad in the way ABA uses the term. It reduces a behavior. Extinction is punishment and not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's important to remove the negative connotation. As an autism mom talking to parents new to ABA, I find that they are put off by the term because it is used incorrectly. So can you help to clean up my talking about punishment?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. And there's a lot of things I want to say about punishment. First of all, punishment, when used appropriately, can be extremely effective. Years and years ago, the primary application of punishment, which is kind of an interesting thing, was, when you look at it, this is, I would say, I reviewed this when I was early on in my career, so this would have been like in the 80s, early 80s. I reviewed a task force had been brought together who was looking at the use of punishment, very severe punishment, which is electroconvulsive shock.
Like the Judge Rottenberg.
Well, no, that's a little bit different. This was just administration of shock for immediate shock, not, they had all sorts of helmets and things that was very different. We're talking about administration of a short burst of shock for self-injurious behavior. In other words, if an individual was injuring themselves through self-injurious behavior, would shock work to stop that behavior? And it was tremendously effective. It was instantly effective, and it would last for very long periods of time. So, in other words, the individual that was a very clear application of punishment. The reason that we don't use punishment in ABA, I guess, is twofold. One is that it's unethical because there are other less invasive procedures that can be used that are just as effective. They may take a little bit longer, or they may you may have to do more intervention in order for it to be effective. But so that's one reason. One is that you always want to do things that are less invasive, so that you can actually do, it's a milder form of therapy to not use punishment. And the second reason is that when you use punishment, you're reducing a behavior without really realizing why that behavior came into existence, and so that behavior will reoccur in other forms. The topography of the behavior will be different. So let's say if someone hit and you punish the hitting, if the person's needs are not met, if the reason they were hitting, let's assume they were hitting because you grabbed something from them. Well, guess what? The next time you grab something from them, they may not hit, but they'll push you or bite or do something else, because we're still not dealing with what they're trying to communicate. So that's the main thing about punishment. Now, extinction is not punishment. It could be perceived as punishment by an individual. Anything that is not, does not provide any kind of reinforcement, and therefore, doesn't allow access to, I suppose, reinforcers, could be considered punishing. But extinction is just removal of reinforcer for one particular behavior. So, you know, during the time that one behavior is on extinction, you could be getting reinforcers for other behaviors. So it's not a punishing environment at all during that time. So, but having said that, extinction is of course very effective. Punishment, there is an aspect, I think what this individual is asking about is that there's a misunderstanding where people think that you know, ABA is based on punishment, and it's not. ABA is based on, very clearly, let's talk about this for a minute. ABA is really just the manipulation of antecedents and consequences to a behavior. So it's the giving and taking away of reinforcers. Now, if you do a good behavior and I reinforce it, obviously that behavior will increase in time. If you do a bad behavior and I remove a reinforcer, then that behavior will hopefully go down in time. Now, the concept is basically that by changing these consequences and antecedents around that behavior, I've changed your behavior. Now, your perception of your world could be, you know, you could feel like, oh, they just punished me because they took a reinforcer away. Right. You could completely feel that. That's perfectly fine. But the world and the fact that sometimes people think that we're, you know, people are going around and hitting children or something like that is just not true. Right. It used to be true, which is why there might be this misunderstanding. Let's be very clear, the genesis of ABA, the beginning of ABA, behavior modification, which would be in the early 60s, did involve punishment, did involve very severe forms of punishment. And as the field has evolved over the past 50 years, there is no need for punishment, and we have come to discover that we do not need to use punishment, where we can use all positive procedures in order to change behavior.
All right.
I hope that helps.
I hope that helps too. And we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with more of the questions that you guys have written in for Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. Stick with us.
It's every parent's desire for their child to have a great start in life. Yet there is a condition affecting more children's lives than pediatric cancer, diabetes, and AIDS combined. Autism strikes 1 in every 150 children.
Today, 1 in 110 kids in the U.S. will be diagnosed with autism. That is a huge jump from 30 years ago when it was 1 in 30,000.
Startling new report finds the number of children with autism is skyrocketing. The Centers for Disease Control estimates 1 in 68 children has a form of autism. Now that's a 30% increase in just 2 years.
Well, a lot of the children and all the accomplishments over the last 20 years, I'm thrilled. I think what kept me was the feeling that, you know, I would have a parent come to my office late at night at UCLA and just fall apart. And this is a long time ago. There were much less back then in terms of services and knowledge and so on. And I would just sit with the family and the parents and walk them through and try to take away some of their fears, you know. And at that point I realized, I think the thing that's actually most important to me is that process. I mean, thank God that I've been very, very lucky and blessed to have so many incredible clinicians join me along the way and just develop CARD in such an amazing, magnificent way. That I could, you know, for me it was more really about how can I help the families? What can I do for the moms, the dads, you know? It is just, and I feel like, you know, there's no way I would ever really know because I haven't had my own child go through this, but I've experienced it with people a lot of times.
Hi, this is Megan. I'm in first grade all by myself. My teachers are so fabulous. I like to read books. I like to go to my friends' birthday parties. I like to invite my friends to my birthday parties. I once had a sleepover with a friend. I like to have play dates with my friend. I'm the best reader in my class. I like to go the library. I like to read different series of books. And here's how I learned to do all these things. By my card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet. Thank you, card friends and Dr. Grant Pichet.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Grant Pichet and I were talking during the break, and we wanted to revisit a couple of things that we were talking about. One of the things that I mentioned is that while I love our self-advocates, our adults who are on the spectrum who are doing so well that they can speak out for themselves and they can speak out for the community, and I have so much respect for them. It's where I want my son to be like them, and I want them to be heard, and I want them to have their voices. But it also fills me with fear that sometimes the things that they talk about are not up to date and are not entirely accurate for the kind of ABA that you're doing with our kids now. And it anyway, you wanted an opportunity to address
I think,
this.
yes, absolutely. I mean, there's several different concepts. One is, what is ABA doing these days? And clearly ABA these days is a very functional ABA. It looks at the function of behavior, the cause of behavior, and it's not about just punishing a particular symptom. That's really not the case. So that is very important to be said. But I think even more importantly is the concept of why would we want to moderate or modify someone's behavior to begin with? And I think that goes to the root cause of this. And I'll present two concepts for the audience to think about. One is, there is such a thing called the legal system. We may not agree with the legal system, but it is a series of rules by which if you break those rules, you are punished. In society, they are the rules that maintain a safe society. Supposedly, okay? And we all live with these. For instance, you can't go around hitting people. Let's just look at that as an example. If you hit someone just at random because you're having a bad day or because you're frustrated, you will be punished, and most likely you'll be thrown in jail. So that's that. Now, do we want our kids to understand those rules? Do we want our kids to adhere to those rules? Yes, we do. We have to. We teach our kids, all kids, in fact, we teach them to adhere to certain rules. If we didn't, realistically, it would be a wild society, right? And it would be not safe for anyone. So if there's a behavior that a child or an adult performs or produces, any kind of behavior, if it is in any way going to break a rule or a law of society, we then need to make sure that we are teaching our children not to do those behaviors. Some of those behaviors could be symptoms of a disorder. It doesn't really matter. An example of it is an individual who drinks and drives. Drinking to the point of not being able to drive is a symptom of alcoholism. Do we punish the person? Of course we do, because what they've done is very dangerous. If we didn't punish the person, then everybody out there would just be drinking and doing whatever. And again, it would lead to an unsafe society. So that is a very important distinction that we need to be aware of, is that if an individual's behavior has the potential to produce harm to society, we need to be able to intervene, regardless of whether or not someone thinks it's their right to do this. This has nothing to do with the individual's right. It has to do with society's right to safety and so on. Now, one may argue that certain behaviors having to do within the symptoms of autism have nothing at all to do with society. For instance, an individual may just hand flap, or an individual may just decide to not attend to something, or may speak jargon as self-stimulatory behavior and so on. And perhaps they do it in a way that it is not interfering with others in any way. Okay, then I think like anything else, it becomes the parent's job and responsibility to decide for their child whether they want to allow the child to remain isolated in their own behaviors, or whether they want to help the child join the rest of the people around him or her. That's really where it comes in, because we know as a fact that all of the behaviors that one exhibits in ASD are preventing the individual from interacting with the typical world. Do we want this individual to continue doing what he's doing, or do we want them to interact with the typical world? That's really a question for each parent to answer. Of course, I, as a parent, if I knew that my child had the capability to learn to communicate appropriately, I'd want to make sure they communicate appropriately rather than doing the symptoms of autism. Let's not forget, anything that is considered a disorder, it's not anything that is in the diagnostic manual and is listed as a disorder, means that it is severe enough that it is preventing the individual from functioning normally at home or in their job. Do we want our children to continue to function abnormally at home or in their work or school environment? Then that's something that a parent, of course, has to decide, and then once the individual reaches a certain age, they can decide for themselves. But that's all ABA is. ABA is a series of techniques that help the individual overcome obstacles so that they can join normal society. Whether or not someone wants to join normal society, I suppose, is the decision of every parent.
Yeah. Thank you for all that clarity. I'm going to move on to a question that I promised yesterday that I would get to with you today. Hello, and thank you so much for your show. I've just recently started watching, and I've learned so much already about how I can help my son. My question has to do with sensory seeking. For a few months now, my son, who is 3.5 years old, has started licking his hands and wiping his face with his saliva. He sometimes even just plays with his spit on his hands. I remind him every single time that the behavior is yucky and ask him to stop. But when he does stop, it's not for very long. The wiping his face with his saliva seems to be turning into a compulsion now, and it's worrying me even more. How can I approach this issue? And thank you so much for your time.
Sure. So again, in this scenario, we have to find out what the function of the behavior is. So, and this is a difficult one because it actually involves two sensory feelings or two senses. And one is the spitting out of saliva, and the other one is rubbing it on his face. So it's very important for us to find out if what he is enjoying or the thing that is giving him the sensory relief, is that actually spitting out saliva onto his hand, or is it the sensation of something wet on his face? And it is not necessarily both of those things. In fact, it's probably one or the other. So you kind of need to figure that out, and I guess the way that you do that is that he licks his hands and then he wipes it. So the question I have is, if you were to prevent him from wiping his face, would he still lick his hands? Or is it really, or let's put it this way, if you gave him something wet, would he then use that to wipe his face? That would be the appropriate replacement in my mind. What you have to do with something like this is identify which sense. Is it the wetness on the hand, or is it the wetness on the face that he's seeking? Whichever one it is, you need to give him something that's more appropriate to produce that sensation. Hands, very easy. You can give him a wet wipe, or like one of those little things that you open to wash your hands. Right. Or even like a dry soap or whatever, the antibacterial soap. Depends if that's the sensation he's looking for, or if he's looking for wetness on his face, then perhaps you can on a regular basis have him just go and splash some water on his face. You will need to replace it with something that produces that sensation for him, and you have to block it. When it's about to occur, you need to block it and replace it. But before you do that, you're going to have to figure out why he's doing it. Which sensation is it that he's needing more of?
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back with more questions for Dr. Doreen Grandpichet. Stick with us.
Hi everyone, welcome back. For the month of March, we're going to be making a rain stick. And what's really cool about this project is that the steps are pretty simple, so your kids are going to be able to practice a lot of their fine motor skills when making it. Another bonus is that once the rain stick is completed, you guys can use it for a bunch of different programs under cognition and executive functions. Things that deals with, seeing versus hearing, or using it also for auditory memory. but we'll get to that later. First, we gotta make the rain stick. So the materials you'll be needing are a paper towel roll, tape, paper, aluminum foil, rice, and any kind of materials you want to use to decorate your rain stick with. All right, let's get to it. So the first thing you want to do is get a piece of tin foil that's about double the length as your paper towel roll. So I got this, and now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it up like so, and I'm gonna wrap my paper towel roll with it. Okay, and don't worry if it's too messy, okay? This is just to give us a basic shape. Now once I've got this, I'm gonna make it a little bit tighter, and I'm gonna roll it and stick it inside of my paper towel roll. I wanna make sure that it goes all the way through the paper towel roll, and what this does, it acts like a buffer so the rice will go down slowly through the tube. And see how that's in nice and in there? Okay, now that I have that, I'm gonna take a piece of paper and cover one side. And I'm gonna take a piece of tape and secure it over the bottom. All right, now that I've got this on, I'm gonna take my rice and pour it in. All right, now that I got the rice in there, I'm gonna seal the other side. Now that this is constructed, don't forget to use your imagination to decorate this any way that you want. And here's my finished rain stick. Don't forget you can decorate yours however you see fit. I decided to use tape and pipe cleaners, but you could always paint it, add sparkles, just whatever you feel like doing. Now that this is done, let's take a listen to it. What does that sound like to you? I think it sounds like rain too. What does rain look like? Ah, that is what rain looks like. You can ask them a whole bunch of different questions using this after it's already been made. Well, until next time, craft on. Bye guys.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back. We are here with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, and she is answering your questions in real time. I have a question from last week that we didn't get to, which I apologize for. Dear ladies, my daughter needs to start wearing a bra. She doesn't like anything tight-fitting. She's nonverbal and typically uses behavior to communicate and frequently lifts her shirt up at school as a form of escape, as reported by the teachers. We tried undershirts. She lifts them up as well. How can we get her to wear a bra? And thank you.
So this you should do in a shaping process here, and so what you would want to do is you'd want to buy one of those, and this depends on your, do we have the age? No. So, and I don't know if you're, okay, so there's a few things I don't know. I was going to suggest that you should buy one of those undergarment things that are full body, that like dancers wear, you know, that bodysuit type thing, right? Which a lot of them now have inside them a loose-fitting bra.
Yeah.
There's two concepts here. One concept is that you need to start with a very, very loose-fitting bra that's very comfortable. And what you should do, let's just put the undergarment away for a second. Let's just talk about the bra. So basically, you will find a bra that's, let's say, 4 inches larger than, or you can get a bra extension, which are the clips that you put on the back, and it makes it wider so that it's a very loose fitting. And you should start this probably on a weekend day when she's with you, so that you put this on and you time it literally for, I don't know, whatever the maximum is that she's able to keep it on, let's say 5 minutes. And you set a timer, and then at 5 minutes you take it off and you reward her. First you reward her, and then you allow her to take it off for a period of time. Okay. And you do this throughout the course of the day, and throughout the course of the day you increase the duration of time that she's wearing the bra. So let's say by the end of the day, you want her to be able to keep it on for 2 hours, okay? Or maybe an hour, it depends. If you have 2 days, it's better to stretch this out. So now you're at a point where she can keep the bra on for certain periods of time successfully, and that's great. Now what you're moving on to is making the bra a little bit tighter. So go to actual size. So basically now, after a week of keeping the bra on at a certain interval, and you get it to a point where it's feasible. You increase the duration of time so that it actually ends up being, let's say, all the hours that she's in school, so that she doesn't have to take it off during school. And then you just get it down to size. That's another shaping schedule that you add on top of that. So you gradually tighten it. Now, the bigger concern here is that she starts to lift up her shirt at school. That's a completely different behavior. We're not sure if she lifts up her shirt because there's something tight on, or just because it has become a behavior that maybe she gets attention from it, maybe she likes the coolness, I'm not sure.
The teachers say it's to escape something.
Right, okay. Well, that's important. If she's trying, so she does that in order to avoid doing some other thing that has been told to her. So then this behavior essentially of pulling her shirt up has to be extinguished, which really can only be done at home, which means when she does that, you just ignore it and you continue doing what it is you're doing. Now, the best way when there's these things that you have to ignore, what happens is, obviously during extinction, something gets worse before it gets better. So we don't want her to, in school, be walking around pulling her shirt up all the time because we're ignoring it, and she's on an extinction burst. So she's kind of like doing more of it to get your attention. So again, best thing is to have something that she can't lift, which is where I was talking about the bodysuit.
Yeah.
So, the concept would be that you'd have a bodysuit on, let's say, over the loose bra, so that she really can't pull her shirt up. There's nothing to pull up. Or she can pull her t-shirt up, we don't care.
Right.
There's a bodysuit that's protecting her and not showing anything. The other thing you might want to add is just give her something in her hands a lot of the time. This will help her just to, you're inhibiting the motion of pulling a shirt up if her hands are busy. So these could be a variety of different things. She could be carrying a purse. She could be writing. She could be holding a journal. Various things that occupy your hands. That way, it's less like this will extinguish easier because she'll be distracted.
I just thought of the word leotard. That's what you want to look up online.
You want to look up leotard, absolutely, or even just underwear, lingerie that has like a clip down below.
Yeah, like a teddy. That's isn't that what they call the full? I don't know. Onesie,
yeah, maybe
whatever
it's called a teddy. Yeah.
I need to look up my lingerie terms. Okay, great. And then write back and let us know how it goes, because I'm sure that you won't be the only person that goes through this, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wanted to go to a question that we had that came in at the end last week from India.
Sure.
Hello, Mrs. Shannon and Dr. Doreen. This is from India. Thank you for everything you do. I have a child with PDD-NOS, 6 years old, and I'm using skills, and she's doing very well. She's hyperlexic. She is good when it comes to academic curriculum and picking language and cognition. Her biggest lag is social. At this point, I want to know, what are the social and emotional skills that are indicators that are seen in the child who recovers?
Right, so that's a really good question, and I would have to say, I think what you see primarily and what's important is a desire to interact. The mode of interaction may be inappropriate or may not really be what it is, but like what we expect, like the person might be standing too close or pulling someone's hair in order to get their attention. So the type of behavior might be wrong, but the desire, like you see in some children, that they really want to interact with other kids. They just don't know how to. And I think that desire to interact with others is a positive thing. I think oddly, the desire to please someone is a very, very key factor. It's very interesting that is a very key factor in pretty much all the child's success with ABA, is just the desire to please the parent. Because most of what typical children, the reason typical children behave well is because they want to please the parent. And a lot of times our kids are so, they're reinforcers. What's meaningful to them is so different that they don't really care to please the parent, and that's when we have problems. So social behavior, I think that one of the precursors is just being interested in others. And then the second one is like wanting to please others. Those two together generally lead to good social behavior in the future. Emotional behavior, one of the old things about autism in the years and years ago, like maybe Diagnostic Manual 3 or something, used to say that kids with autism are kind of cold or not able to attach emotionally, and that may have been true back then, but it isn't now. It's definitely not one of the symptom criteria anymore, and I think that all of our kids have, again, some kids are just more independent because they have found something that they enjoy doing and it doesn't involve others. And I think that's probably, as I'm speaking, I think that's probably the key to it. If you have a child who is hyperlexic, for instance, and so they have the ability to entertain themselves with a lot of other things in the world, like with reading or, on the computer and so on and so forth, they're less likely to need social approval because they're getting a lot of reinforcements from their environment. And our environment, our society is becoming a much more lexic society, right? We communicate through writing rather than speaking. So therefore, social behavior is changing as well. But what I was going to say is that if she gets a lot of her reinforcers from reading and books and letters and stuff like that, then you should expect to see less desire or need for human contact, or let's say social reinforcers, okay? So that's not, but having said that, it's not something to be afraid of, because society as a whole is changing, and our kids, the way they socialize, typically developing kids, is becoming so much more a non-face-to-face, non-social form of communicating with each other. I mean, it's completely different from how we used to communicate. Yeah. We would talk to each other on the phone. We would physically go and visit each other because sometimes you didn't even have a phone, right? We didn't have cell phones.
And before that, you used to write letters.
And before that, you used to write letters, absolutely. Yeah. And now it's just the definition of social behavior has changed so incredibly. The primary mode of social behavior is on your iPhone, on your phone, texting each other, and or now even on various games where you chat with each other below the game, which is kind of amazing to me.
It's amazing.
So, for this parent and for any parent who's worried about their child fitting in socially, it's good news, because the world is changing in a way, and I've said this many times, the world is changing in a way that I think our kids with ASD will fit in better than they would before, because things like eye contact aren't even a requirement anymore.
Right. We're morphing and we're shifting, and it's one of the ways in which we're morphing and shifting that fits with how our society is morphing and shifting, because we have more people who are on the spectrum. So,
I mean, if you had a child even 10 years ago who had some sort of object that they were clicking on all day long, it would appear very weird.
Right.
Whereas now, if you don't do that, it appears strange. Right? You go to any setting and you look at 100 people in a restaurant, they're all doing that.
It's crazy. But it's good for our kids, so we'll take it. All right, we're going to take another break, and then we're going to be back with more questions for Ask Dr. Doreen. Stick with us.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, There are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Here we go. Welcome back to Ask Dr. Doreen. We're speaking with Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet, a true expert in the field of autism, and she's answering your questions live here on the show. I wanted to go to a question about biting fingers. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. My 9th grader still bites his fingers. At home, we can monitor, and he knows about the germs and inappropriateness. How can we teach him to monitor himself at school or when he's on his own? I hesitate to ask the school, as I'm sure he doesn't want attention directed to him. Learning from all your advice, and thank you so much.
So, first of all, I think if you know for sure that he doesn't want attention directed to him, and then that's a good aversive to use. So you should probably tell him, first of all, that if he is going to be biting his fingers, you're going to have to tell the teacher. And then the teacher will call him out on it, which is probably embarrassing to him. And embarrassment is always a very good sign. And so then he'll be more likely to remember to stop it. Another thing is they have these things out in all pharmacies and for children who bite their nails, and I think it's called No Bite. And it's harmless and it's bitter, so you might want to put a little bit of that on his fingers. And everybody uses those for kids, just any child who's biting their nails. So that might be something else to do as well.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. I love one mom once said, because we have such a hard time as parents understanding about extinction and what to do when, and I love that one parent said that they had made it easy for themselves, and they said, whatever it is that he wants when he's doing that behavior, I give him the opposite. So if what he wanted was to not get attention, I give him attention. If he wanted attention, I give him the opposite.
That's exactly
right. And I went, I want to put that on my refrigerator.
That's so smart. That's exactly right.
Kelby, we have a programming note from one of our dear viewers who says that when we're playing the clips in between, that they are significantly louder and they're having to turn down and then turn back up. So just to let you know. I would have waited to tell you during a break, but then it would have been loud again. So Calby says thank you. Person has just written in and said, Dear Dr. Doreen and Shannon, how can I improve my 6-year-old's emotional control? He has high-functioning autism. Is there something we can do daily? He cries easily and has terrible tantrums. And then sometimes he seems to really enjoy running around, hitting his brother and not listening to me. He can switch on a dime. 1 second he's sweet, and the next his behavior is out of control. Sounds like menopause. I'm sorry, I joke, but I know that's very serious. And she wrote, I'm exhausted, and I'm
Yes,
sure
I
that you
can
are. So
imagine.
hugs to you.
Absolutely. And, I think the biggest lesson here is don't just think of it as emotional control. It's not, it may be emotional control, but let's first find out why he's having these bouts of, up and down emotions. Let's find out what it is that transforms him or changes him to have these negative experiences or behaviors. So that, I think, is the key. You need to start writing down every time he kind of has a bout of negative behavior or challenging behavior. Just go into a journal and write, describe the behavior that he's showing, and then write a little sentence or paragraph about what just happened, and then also how you intervened. Do that for like the next 3 days, and then sit down and read those, and everything that happened right before the behavior is the antecedent, maybe triggering it. You'll find some commonality perhaps that'll show, he does this type of behavior whenever something, I don't know, a transition is occurring. It's a specific time of day where we move from one activity to another. Someone's about to come over. I ask him to do something, whatever it is. And then when you look at the consequences of how you consequated it, you may come find some sort of theme where it shows, oh, you know what, every time he does this, I go over and I start calming him, or I start trying to give him attention, or I tell him not to do it. All that sort of stuff then gives you the answer of what kind of consequences maintaining that behavior. So first, let's find out why these emotional outbursts are occurring. That's extremely important, and then we can talk about how to intervene. So take data on it for the next week, and then please come back and let us know how he does, just what you found from writing it down.
Absolutely. Wonderful. I want to go to another question. Thank you, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. We love you guys. Love your show. I have a 10-and-a-half. We love you too, by the way. I have a 10-and-a-half-year-old with ASD and verbal. He is frustrated. He has major aggressive behaviors, including self-injurious, pounding his head, hitting his head on the wall and doors, destroying property at times, and pushes me. Routine changes, transitions, anxiety, and mood swings is what I believe causes them. I feel like I'm moving backwards since he acts and behaves as he was 5 or 6 years old. As he grows, he is in therapy, support group, and meds for attention and impulsive behaviors. He's on an inclusion program at school and has goals for attention and focus. Now his psych wants to add SSRI like Zoloft, since others like Abilify, 10X, etc. had failed. But I want him off of all of his daytime meds, and she puts in quote in parentheses Ritalin, since it's not working anyway, especially if that's the route she wants. But if she is hesitating on removing the meds, she is hesitating on removing the meds. Thank you. You help me to read always.
No worries.
Am I wrong? Am I wrong to want him off his meds and have the school instead to follow through with his goals?
Right.
And please, some advice and thank you.
Yeah, this is very important. And I don't want to say that you're wrong to want him off all the meds, but I think you should probably allow the doctors to help. The best intervention, in my opinion, is a combination of behavioral and medical. Medical often helps with various things, and we shouldn't. I think I'm one of those people that believes that the use of certain medications just as an advancement in science, and there is no real reason for us to be against all meds. To me, doesn't make sense, because we've already discovered that some of these medications are very effective. In my perception, so there's two things. First of all, please make sure that you don't classify all of his meds under one group. For instance, Ritalin is a stimulant, it's an amphetamine. It's very different from Zoloft, which is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. Completely different mechanism, completely different use. All of these meds that you list, you need to kind of get clear on what the medication is for and why he's being given. If he's on Ritalin, then someone has diagnosed him with ADHD, clearly. The SSRIs are generally affecting things like anxiety and depression. So Let's, have a deep conversation with a psychiatrist and have some plan of action for what we're trying to achieve here. Now, in terms of behavior, you've done a pretty good job at identifying behaviors, aggressive behaviors, which are self-injurious, including pounding his head, hitting his head on the wall and doors, and then aggressive behaviors like destroying property and then pushing me. Those are some of the behaviors. And then you list some of the causes, like changes in routine, transitions, and then what you feel is anxiety or mood swings. What you need to do is tie these together a little bit better. So for instance, when he has self-injurious behavior, do the same thing I just suggested to the other parent. Take a diary and list when these behaviors occur. Now, when it occurs, list it exactly. So you can say it's self-injurious, but list exactly what he's doing. He's pounding his head against the wall or whatever it is. And then list exactly what happened before it and then also how you dealt with it. That's the data that you need for a few days in order to be able to pattern this. Don't feel like you've regressed. You haven't regressed. The same things happen in society no matter what age we are. We have the same feelings. They just come up. So for a 5-year-old, it might be very frustrating if they can't get attention from their friends. For a 15-year-old, or yours is 10 and a half now, some other thing might be frustrating. The issue that these things are coming back is the same issue back then, which is there's a certain level of frustration and the child doesn't know a better way to express the frustration, so he does it this way. What could be causing the frustration? Yeah, it could be a variety of things, and some of them we can change behaviorally. For instance, transitions. Let's say if it's transitions, we can certainly help him with transitions. We'll give him techniques to be able to know a transition is coming. Often it's not transitions, it's transitioning from a preferred activity to a non-preferred activity. That's a different thing than just having problems with transitions. So again, we need to find out. And other things, for instance, mood swings or anxiety, we will get some help from the medications that he's on. Having said that, if it's not a child with ADHD and he is given ADHD medications, those will cause some anxiety in him. So it's important to clean up both sides, both the medical side and let's figure out the functions so we can do a nice functional type of treatment for him behaviorally.
Wonderful. Unfortunately, we're out of time, and I apologize for all the questions that we didn't get to. I want to remind everybody that Dr. Graham-Bichet has been doing this with us for a couple of years now, and all of the questions are cataloged on the card site that you can click on them, and you can search them by topic. In particular, for the person who wrote in about the 2.5-year-old who was always waking up unhappy, there are so many episodes where Dr. Graham-Bichet has talked about sleep issues and the importance of our kids getting good sleep and what you can do about that. So we'll try to revisit it next week, but in the meantime, you have a library of videos that you can go to get more help and support from Dr. Graham-Bichet and learn from what other people have asked, which is really, really useful. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure.
Always for being
Have
here.
a great
I learned
week.
so much. Thank you
you
so much. We're going to take a break now and go to the A word. And when we come back, it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspaw-Jackson will be joining me, and our special guests today are Diane and Jeremy Bernstein. This is the next in our series of Autism Family Portraits, talking to families and their children when we have the opportunity to bring them into the studio about what their real life challenges and their real life triumphs have been on this journey. All of that's coming up after the A word. Take a look.
There's Miss Jessica. Hello. Say hi. What do you see? What is it? What's that? Giraffe. It's getting really good at that. What's that guy? Who's this guy?
We have this one program called NVI, which is non-vocal imitation. So he basically has to imitate whatever we do. So we were working on object manipulation, and then Tuesday I tried doing more gross motor things like clapping hands or standing or jumping, and he was able to imitate all of those. Ready? a lot more on his own, even just when I attempt him by just holding the object, not necessarily asking him to imitate more. Cat, that's right. He does do it on his own now, which is really cool. Good asking, buddy. Out. My head up.
That one's up. Oh, there you go. See? How many up do you want to go?
Touch the block. God, what is it? Good job.
Sorry, I'm just curious.
Okay. I'm interested too. Touch shoes. Where's the shoes? That's a good try. Okay. Let's see. Can you touch crab? Where's the crab? Can you touch it with your finger though? Thank you. Did you see that? What is it? Crab. See, crab. That was so funny. I didn't specify, huh? Touch block. Good job. What is it? What is this? Block. This is his receptive labels, so what I just did basically. And our supervisor had written down things that's in his environment that he might not know or that he might know the labels to, or if he's just seen it or heard the label for it, not necessarily know how to say it per se. And I just went through block, guitar, bear, plain, cat with him, and so he actually knows all of them. So I'm actually going to go through his environment just to see other things like shoes. He actually knew almost everything on here except fork, I think. Yeah. So that's actually really impressive. You amaze me every day, kiddo.
We're taking a walk. We just finished dinner, getting ready to go to bed. But part of our after dinner tradition suddenly has been to take a walk. Make sure. Say, come on, Mama. Come on, Mama. Right, Jack? And then we say, stop. Go. Stop. Go. So we're practicing our stops and goes. Stop. Good stopping. Go. Stop. Good stopping, Jack. Stop. Good stopping. Good job, love.
Look at me.
Say bye-bye.
My friend, welcome.
Hi, good to be back.
Thrilled to have you back. I know we need to get you some more time off, but thrilled to have you back.
Well,
We've
this
all
summer.
missed you. Okay.
Definitely.
But I want you to know that so many people have written in and said virtual hugs to you and to Wyatt and the whole family, and we love you so much. We weren't going to do this.
No.
But you look beautiful.
Thank you.
And we adore you.
Thank
and
you.
so glad that you're back.
Thank you.
And I just want to hold your hand because everybody else would want to do that too. So, all right.
So we're back, and one of my favorite kids in the world is here today.
Yes.
For our autism family portraits, and his mom.
Yes.
One of my favorite. Diane Bernstein and Jeremy Bernstein. And this young man, he's very good friends with Wyatt.
Yes.
And he is just
He's a
absolutely
delight.
adorable. He's a delight. He has his own jewelry making business. He's a thriving entrepreneur.
Yes. And he's just a teenager.
He's a teenager,
pretty
yeah.
incredible.
So we're going to have Diane and Jeremy on, and that's going to be really fun.
Yeah. First, we have some news. Some of which, we always have to. Should we do the bad first?
Let's
and
do
just
the bad
rip off the
first.
Band-Aid and get through it.
Yeah.
Big story going around in the news this week about Europe's cure for autism is euthanasia, and there's one patient in particular that we're seeing that the Dutch have a policy that if someone asks to be euthanized and there are certain reasons that they can ask for it, it can be upon the voluntary and well-considered request of those suffering unbearably from incurable mental conditions.
Which they said he suffered terribly from his inability to form relationships. Is that really what we would call an incurable condition?
I mean, I take exception to the whole thing, but there's one patient in particular who's known as 2014-77 because to protect his identity, he was somebody who suffered from neglect and abuse. When he was 10 years old, doctors diagnosed him with autism, and for 2 decades after that, he was found in and out of treatment and repeatedly made attempts to end his own life. Now, you know, my question is, how much of this was a product of autism and how much of it was a product of the fact that there was nobody there for him?
Exactly.
Well,
wouldn't every one of our children, be it typical or atypical, that suffered abuse and neglect, have issues? I mean, I haven't seen the movie Room, but I read the book.
Yeah.
And you know, that deals, of course, with the reentry of a boy who lived in captivity. I mean, we know these children suffer just horrific, and any child, particularly one on the spectrum, would need, you know, I think intensive intervention and treatment after that from the actual trauma.
Absolutely. And for this particular young man, he repeatedly asked his doctor to have him euthanized because of the law that they have. The doctor refused, but according to what their standards are, he is supposed to, if he does refuse, he's supposed to let his colleagues know that this has happened. And one of his colleagues treated this young man for a year and then decided to and they euthanized him.
And they euthanized in 2009, a 37-year-old Belgian woman became distraught after a romantic breakup, so she was obviously able to have relationships. She began seeking a doctor to euthanize her, which, per Belgium's law, is similar to Holland's. The woman, it says Tine Niece, had a history of mental illness, including a teenage suicide attempt, but in more recent times have been doing well. In February 2010, she received a new diagnosis of autism, and 2 months later, a lethal injection. A lethal injection.
Yeah, unbelievable. And the reason why this is coming to light right now is there's a great deal of concern that there will be more of this, that it seems to be spreading in Europe, that this is how we handle this. Really disgusting, I think, and inappropriate. And something that we don't want to spread. Now, Kelby shared with us a really fun story, and it's on our Facebook page about prodigies and what they can teach us. And what I love in the article is it starts by talking about the fact that we've all been amazed by something that our kids can do.
Yeah, Wyatt's art sometimes just blows me away. I'm like, I could never do that.
Absolutely. And there have been things that Jem can do that I go, okay, that's just right. But that doesn't necessarily make them a prodigy.
Correct. And a lot of people have that misunderstanding that I'm sure you've had people say this to you when you tell them you have a child on the spectrum. They go, oh, well, aren't they brilliant in certain areas? Not necessarily.
Not necessarily. Right. That's not a requirement of an autism diagnosis. All of our kids are not savants.
No.
Right? But anyway, they define a prodigy, as a pre-adolescent child who performs an adult professional level in a demanding field. So I don't know, maybe Wyatt is a prodigy. I don't think Jem is, but maybe Wyatt is an art.
Well,
maybe
no,
that
his art is a result of his STEM and his ability to concentrate and the way he likes to take a color and plop it and then take another color and plop it, but maybe that's a prodigy. I mean, they certainly called, who's the guy that Ed Harris played? Pollock.
Right, Pollock.
They called that a prodigy, and he was just squirting tubes.
Right.
So you never know.
And I will say this, Wyatt does that with the regularity of a profession.
He does.
He does not take breaks. He is serious about his art. Every time I talk to you in the early evening, it is so funny because the conversation in the background is always about color.
Mom, what color is this? And you'll hear him say, is this a cerulean blue or is this a royal blue?
Or is this cornflower blue? That is always the conversation that they are having.
And I go into the kitchen, I'll say, hold on, Shannon. I'm like, I would call that a periwinkle blue.
I said I'm going to get them a set of Pantone colors at some point so that they can define, because he wants to know what is the definition for this color. That's a very high level thing that he's doing.
Yeah.
So maybe Wyatt is a prodigy.
We'll see, and maybe Jeremy is with jewelry. We'll look at some
Absolutely. But definitely check out, great article in the New York Times, and we're sharing it on our Facebook, and thank you, Kelby, for sharing that with us.
Yes.
And then there's a new study looking at, we're always looking at what the social deficit is, and they think that they've identified a part of the brain, that there is a segment of the brain that they're calling it a river, that seems to be where social things happen, and there seems to be a bit of a different river.
It's a groove, it says. They found that many of these skills involve a long groove on the brain's bumpy surface that runs around each side of the head over the ears. The groove is called the superior temporal sulcus, STS, and is the home of numerous differences in function between people with autism and typically developing people.
Very interesting. I know we've had an opportunity to look at Temple Grandin's brain and see a CAT scan of what her brain looks like and how differently it's set up.
Now that's a genius right there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, there's
that's
a
definitely
prodigy,
a prodigy.
All right. So those are our news stories.
Okay.
Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by the fabulous Diane and Jeremy Bernstein. This is the next installment in our series about autism family portraits. Stick with us.
What would you do if your child was hurting?
If your family's future was uncertain?
If help seemed out of reach?
Have you been given no hope?
Taka means I am not alone in this.
This is the reality for families affected by autism. And today, the number of children with autism is growing more rapidly than ever. Taka unites these families and shows that they do not have to fight this battle alone.
Our oldest son, Jared, who has autism, when we first took him to the doctor to get the diagnosis, it's so sad because they offer you nothing. There's no help, there's no hope.
One of the things that you learn with autism is being very grateful for even the small milestones. When you first get the diagnosis, you go through all the range of emotions. This can't be happening. Why is this happening? You have to get to a point where it's the emotion that has to be leading is, what can I do? The first thing that struck me was walking to a room and seeing, oh my gosh, we're not alone. And there is this very strong community that's already set. And something I still today associate with Taka the most is hope. To me, that's what Taka means. Taka means hope.
It's like you've got all these dreams and goals of what your son's going to do, and you get your diagnosis and you're sent home. And that's it. There's no plan of action. There's no, here's autism, here's what we're going to do to make your life better and help him. It's strictly go home and try to process it and go on the internet. It was devastating, and you just, you go through this 3-week of depression, and then you snap out of it. You have to. And then you start making phone calls and trying to figure out what is autism and what are we going to do. And then we found Taka, and it was life-changing.
Autism, there really is no definitive answer. It is trying to find the resources that are out there that can assist you to help your child so that you just don't feel so helpless at those particular moments.
There was direction, and there was hope, and there was a little ray of sunshine that he's going to be okay and we're going to be okay. I always look back and think we would never be where we are. Carson wouldn't be where he is at without Taka.
So 13 years ago, my son was diagnosed with autism, and that put our whole family into a tailspin. There were so many different ideas and things that were not proven. Nobody knew what guidance to give us. We had no direction. And then we found Taka. They helped give us a path to follow, help give our son a better future and make him healthy and put him back onto the road of recovery. When your son's first diagnosed, the first thing you hope for is, gosh, I just want my son to speak. I just want to be able to communicate with him in some way. Then you want a little more. You want him to go to a regular school. Then you want him to potentially have a real life and go to college. So you're always hoping for the future of your child. My son is a happy, healthy, vibrant young boy that's going to turn 15 really soon. And we couldn't be more pleased, and without Taka, I don't think we'd be in the place that we are today. We believe the future is not defined for many affected by autism. There is hope and direction for these kids and their families. TACA is dedicated to providing community, support, education, and hope to families affected by autism.
At TACA.
At TACA.
At TACA, we are families with autism helping.
Helping.
Helping families.
Helping families with autism.
Hi, my name is Matt. I am 19 years old and I was diagnosed with autism when I was 6 years old. Autism is one of the fastest growing developmental disabilities in the United States, but I am living proof that with the right treatment, hope is possible. My future is not limited. Today, I am attending Fullerton Community College and I run for the cross-country team for fun with my friends. It makes me feel proud when I think about my progress. Chances are you know someone affected by autism. Show them they are not alone and help others get on the road to recovery. Contribute to Talk About Curing Autism today.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I am joined in the studio right now by Jeremy and Diane Bernstein. I want to mention that Nancy was called away for a very important phone call. She's going to come back in when she can. I know you guys understand that sometimes that's just how it goes, right? Sometimes you got to take the call when you got to take the call, right? So poor Nancy felt bad, but she had to step out. She will be back, but we're thrilled that you guys are here. This is part of a series that we're doing called Autism Family Portraits. And we love to have an opportunity to have parents to come in and talk about what their experience is, and when possible, to have their children, whether they're adults or younger, that are on the spectrum, to be with them. So we're thrilled that you had the opportunity to be with us today too, Jeremy. You've been on our show before, Diane, and you are an amazing mom. I don't get to things very often, but you are at everything. You find a way to be there. You guys go places, you do things, you represent in the best possible way. But you're very active and an advocate and someone who deals with art and helps people to find their inner artist, in particular individuals who are on the autism spectrum. And so we appreciate that work. And here you have this lovely and talented son who is an artist in his own right and a jewelry designer. And you're only 16 years old, Jeremy, so this is amazing to me that you already have your own business. So we want to talk a little bit about that, but let's start with the beginning of this journey. You're an only child, Jeremy, or do you have brothers and sisters?
I'm an only child.
And do you like being an only child?
Yeah, because I get all the attention.
And that's the right answer, isn't it? That is the best part about being an only child.
Yeah.
And so, Diane, tell us a little bit about when Jeremy came into your life, and at what point did you realize that there was an autism spectrum diagnosis?
I think I was very late. I consider myself an older parent. I had a lot of self-blame that if only I could get this right, if only I could do better, faster, whatever hoops to jump through, I would do, and then that would make the difference, but it did not.
Okay. So how old was he when he got a diagnosis?
4.5.
4.5, okay. And back then, the diagnosis, you could get classic autism, you could get PDD-NOS, you could get Asperger's. What did they tell you?
High functioning at the time. They since added ADHD, a little bit of, you want to say it?
You can say it.
Tourette's, just a little.
Okay.
Yeah. We don't know how much really still.
Okay. And but he was diagnosed as high functioning at that age, so
Yeah.
he must have been talking.
He did have a language drop at 18 months, and we actually had it on video, and that's what enabled us to get services at the time using that video and showing that drop, because at that time it was difficult to get services if you were talking, if you had some intelligence, and it wasn't ever about Jeremy's being bright.
Right, no, he's sharp as a tack. You're a smart guy. But yeah, because the diagnosis, there was and there still is something in the diagnosis, but they've loosened it up a little bit that said you had to have onset of symptoms before the age of 3 in order to get an autism diagnosis. And if you didn't have that, you were much more likely to be categorized as PDD-NOS or Asperger's or nothing at all. No diagnosis, misdiagnosed. Now it's that there must be some component before the age of 5, I believe, is what the new criteria is. So, and at that point, at 4.5, what did you decide to do? How did you decide to go? Did you know what to do, Diane?
We were advised by an attorney. I don't know if we want to mention good names, but
if it's somebody you like,
Sareed Ariam.
Okay.
And not only did she was aggressive in her, she's got a wonderful way. I don't know if you know who she is. She's
I have not
very
met her.
soft-spoken, but she was aggressive for us with getting us on board with both the school district, with the behavior aid and regional center. We had all services coming on board at once at that time.
Okay. And so here's my question for you, Jeremy, because I always like to ask our teens that are on the spectrum, do you remember anything from that time period? Do you remember starting therapy? Do you remember being frustrated?
Yeah, I remember quite a bit. Here's the weird thing. I remember some images in my mom's stomach.
Oh, you can remember being in your mom's stomach?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about it very quickly.
Okay, tell me.
Basically, when I was in my mom's stomach, basically I was scared and I felt hopeless and basically because it's stinky, it smelled bad in there. So and it was very stinky and it was too dark. I couldn't see.
Okay.
It was very hard for me to keep consciousness and stay fully awake. So I slept most of the time. But when I wasn't awake, I started kicking my mom's stomach, trying to get out. But what usually stopped me from doing that for a little bit of time is listen to my mom's heartbeat, which calmed me down and it reminded me I'm gonna be out of here soon.
Wow, that's amazing. And now, when was he born? Did you birth him, or did you end up having a C-section? Okay, it's interesting because I had to have a C-section too.
9/4.
Okay, my son was 10 and 1 ounce, so I feel your pain. So mom had to have a C-section to have you come out. Amazing.
I know someone that I knew for a little bit that whose baby I guess he actually has 13.2.
Wow, that's a big baby.
I know.
And the reason why I asked that is because they've done some studies that kids that are born of C-section report much more often that they have memories before they were born.
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Oh.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
And who knows what that's based in, but kids who are born from C-section tend to report either that they remember past life or that they remember being in the womb or whatever. So I don't know.
I just thought he was perceptive.
I don't know. But anyway,
I do agree with her on that.
I mean, this is what the studies have shown. This is what the studies have shown. So we can postulate what that might mean. I don't know. But anyway, so he got some services. Let's talk a little bit about what worked for you. What do you think? So for families watching, that you can say, hey, this was good for us. This really helped him.
Do you want to ask? Who do you want to ask first?
I want to ask you first.
Okay.
And then we'll ask Jeremy.
I would say that when we did those inclusive play dates, that we would have play dates out in playground in the community, Pirates Park, all of those that I did set up, but I had an agency to help me set it up. That IECP, Inclusion, Education, and Community Partnership program, to me, that actually set you apart socially and gave you extra social skills that I really think have helped you when you've had to be meeting and greeting the public in your jewelry business.
And what do you think? Do you remember that? And do you think that helped you, Jeremy?
Yeah, it helped me quite a bit.
What do you think has helped you the most?
My loving parents.
Oh, what a good answer. My loving parents. Did somebody coach you in that, or is that your own answer?
That's my own answer.
That's a good answer too, Jeremy. And And I think, you know, as I look at you and the fact that you guys are always out doing things, and so there's always an opportunity for Jeremy to socialize. We were at an event that not too long ago, and you guys arrived, and we had been there a little bit longer than you guys had been, but it was because you had just come from another event, and you said, oh, we were just at this, and tomorrow we're going to this. You have a full social calendar. Do you ever get bored just hanging around at home? Is that why you guys are out so much? You like to go? You like to be with the people?
I like being with people so much more than I'm just prefer on my iPad.
Oh, okay. So when you have your quiet time at home, you're on the iPad.
Yeah.
Is there anything
Horror stuff.
And what
mainly my iPad.
What do you like to play more than anything else on your iPad?
Clash of Clans.
You know what? I am just playing Clash of Clans now because somebody recommended, because my son likes to play video games, and they said this was a good one that I could play with him. So I am building, we'll have to talk about clans.
Maybe you can join my clan
I would love to join your clan later.
What town hall are you?
I think it's a 7.
That's got town hall 8, level 95.
I don't even know what that means, Jeremy. I'm a newbie at Clash of Clans, but we'll talk Clash of Clans.
If you're down with something, you're a newbie, you must have really town hall rushed.
I think probably I did.
That's not good. You won't get upset.
I'll show you on my phone, and you can critique my because I don't know.
I'd probably help you out at your base.
Okay.
But let's go back to schedule. We can do it after the interview.
All right. We'll talk after the interview. In fact, we should probably take a short break, and then we'll come back and talk about your jewelry business and what you're doing now and what you do with others for art. That is, you do it for everybody, but you've done it for him and how important that is. So stick with us. We're going to be back more with the Bernsteins after this message. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and we're at the ABCs and XYZs of Special Needs Conference. And this year, for the first time, they've got something really remarkable. It's the Entrepreneurial Boutique. These are all items that have been made and are being sold by individuals who have special needs. So we're going to do a little shopping and talk to some of these fabulous entrepreneurs. Come on.
My name is Molly Rarick, and I'm founder of Breed's Gift. We're a nonprofit that serves teens and adults with special needs, like Chase here. We were founded in 2013 and serve people in the Conejo Valley, Santa Barbara, and LA.
Our main objective is to give our participants the skills they need to gain a more independent life.
My name is Shelley Cox, and Lisa Zalagi and I are founders of Creative Steps and Create Micro Business Enterprises. And the items that we're selling here today are all made by the clients who have passions about what they want to make, and then they get the profits from what they make after we've paid all of the other expenses.
We are here today because my goal is to be independent, and also I would like to share all my artwork, and I would like to sell.
Thinking about at his young age being a businessman, you know, it's amazing. I cannot be more proud.
Welcome back. And you just saw a piece featuring entrepreneurs who are on the autism spectrum. And we happen to have an entrepreneur who's on the autism spectrum with us here right now. Jeremy Bernstein is here, and his mom, Diane Bernstein, is here with us as well. And both of you are artists, and you work with individuals to help them to find their artistic voice. In particular, individuals who are on the autism spectrum, but you work with a lot of people, don't you? Tell us a little bit about what you do with that.
There's a couple companies that I'm working with right now. One is Winefield Education Group, and they're providing help with the IEP. And so I'm helping with outreach for this company. They're very collaborative, which is why I would work from them from my previous experience at Division of Special Education, where I was a parent community liaison for several years doing resource fairs and planning there.
Yes.
But actually, to me, right now, the most exciting thing that has come up is self-determination.
Yes.
Self-determination, I'm a family facilitator, what's called an independent facilitator, certified by the Autism Society of Los Angeles. And so somebody like Jeremy Jeremy could use funds that typically might not be working for him on with Regional Center to actually target exactly areas of need. Perhaps he needs transportation to a jewelry show, and so and somebody also like Jeremy can document in the past what's called unmet needs. Judy Mark is actually an excellent speaker on this issue, and that would be, for example, that I used my respite worker to go to jewelry shows for years and didn't take my respite, so that we could end up having a third person. You really need two people at a table when you go to be a vendor, so that's how I did it. But that actual cost is something that I could use to raise our funds. So for families that don't have a lot of funds with Regional Center, maybe they're not using a lot of services, I encourage them to use their services as much as possible. Go to all the conferences. That's why I do show up everywhere that I go. Even with things like we're moving right now, I just make sure we continue to show up, give value to others, because you never know when somebody is going to end up being helpful in your life, and in this case for finding housing for us. This was recent. I'm in a women's relationship group, and one of the Sterling sisters knew somebody, and that's how we were able to get past the housing that's going on with Porter Ranch right now.
And I just want to backtrack a little bit to say that, self-determination is a law that was fought for. Really, everybody banded together to fight for this law in the state of California. You may not have this law in your state, but we always like to let people know what's happening in California, because as California goes, and if it's successful, we see other states adopt policies that are useful in California. And it's been a way to allow our older population, older teens and adults on the autism spectrum, with something in California, the Regional Center, it allows them to look at what their services are and have them make sense. It's not a cookie cutter, it's not one size fits all, and as you said, there are many families that, because they don't fit the cookie cutter, then they don't use the services, and self-determination allows you to pick and choose how and when you're going to use your services in a way that's meaningful. So that's a wonderful, wonderful thing. And you also referenced, what I found out recently, I was at a conference with a bunch of people from around the country that they weren't hearing about what was happening in Porter Ranch. We've just gone through here in Los Angeles something quite devastating, that there was a gas leak, a methane gas leak, and other horrible chemicals, cancer-causing chemicals that were with the methane, and an entire community here in Los Angeles, a huge, lovely, fabulous community, had to be evacuated, and not just for a weekend. This was over 2 months. It started on October 27th, I believe, and they just capped it, and they're encouraging families to go home, but they've extended the period of time before they have to go home. In the midst of all this, you lost the place where you guys were living and have had to find a new place. And finding housing right now when this entire community has been displaced is next to impossible. But you've done it. We're happy to report that you've got a place to go to. It maybe isn't the most ideal, but you're making it work. And I bring that up because in talking about what it's like for an autism family, I think a lot of times people think, well, I certainly thought this, well, if we have autism, then that's all we have to deal with, and that's almost never the case.
Don't cry,
Real
Mom.
real life.
Don't cry, Mom.
Yeah, real life. You have everything and more going on. I mean, Nancy just lost her husband. You lost your home to this Porter Ranch nightmare. It's not easy. It's not easy, but you power through, you continue on, and this whole time...
If you power through, that means you don't cry, Mom.
Well, not necessarily. Girls get to cry all the time, and
That's
we're
true.
encouraging boys to cry whenever they want to, and telling them that it's okay
Boo,
to cry.
boo.
Do you ever cry, Jeremy?
Sometimes.
But what's your rule about when can you cry? When is it allowed?
Just usually not for females.
Oh, not in front of females. Well, that's a pretty...
It's kind of the same about farting around females.
Well...
Except that you definitely don't want to do.
I like
If you
that
actually
rule.
do need to cry, like right here now, I do occasionally cry around females. So occasionally I do, it's just, I try not to though.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of the same with farting around females.
I think those are pretty good 16-year-old boy rules. I think that
True.
probably works. Later on, when you're older, and I hope that you are happily married, then you're allowed to cry in front of girls. It's okay. In my opinion. So I want to know, Jeremy, when did you start making jewelry?
Yay! It's my turn
It
now.
is your turn. You waited so patiently. So
Thank
when
you.
did you start making jewelry?
It was and I was trying a fourth-grade project called Dreams and Jobs, and a year or two, or maybe like 3 years later, I turned that into a jewelry making business. I've been in my jewelry making business for almost 8 years now.
Wow. And so, what is it about making jewelry that you really love?
I just love how how it's encourages other entrepreneurs and our businessmen to continue our dreams.
Yeah.
And this is important. I want everyone to hear this. I encourage all businessmen and all entrepreneurs to follow your dreams. Do not hesitate to not follow your dreams. And whenever you come up with a vision or a dream, don't hesitate to follow your dreams no matter what obstacles are in your way.
I think that's good advice. So I see that Mom is wearing some jewelry. Is this happen to be jewelry that you have made?
This one is.
This one.
Let's go take it off and I'll show everyone.
Okay,
I
easy
wanna
on it.
see. Yeah. That's beautiful, Jeremy.
I made this one a long time ago, many years ago.
Wow.
It's one of my best pieces back then.
And so are there specific kinds of things that you like to make jewelry out of?
Yeah.
Or specific kinds of jewelry that you like to make?
I used to use semi-precious stones.
Okay.
I used to use all plastic beads. I got a few examples that are still surviving.
Right.
But now I hardly ever use plastic beads unless I got fancy stuff. And I only use plastic beads like only, for example, like a roulette plastic bead, but had to have a roulette bead. I have some are plastic, and cheaper kinds, some are plastic, and then they got fake jewels.
Right.
Some are real, so they're more expensive.
Yeah.
But usually I get those ones at my grandma.
Uh-huh.
And our examples are ours in plastic bead. It's a flower on that and there's Swarovski crystal in the center of the flower.
Ooh, I'll bet that's pretty. And do you particularly like to make bracelets, or do you make bracelets, necklace, earrings?
I make bracelets, necklaces, sometimes earrings, and sometimes rings.
Okay.
But I'm not done talking. Basically, I use semi-precious stones, glass beads, Brazilian beads from my Uncle Michael. I get made noises from around the world. I got Israeli beads, and beads from all over the world. And I got a lot from Brazil. Got Brazilian nut beads, so I preserve Brazilian nut beads. What else? I got all kinds of beads. I got a big variety.
And can I ask you, when you shop for your beads, are you shopping online, or do you go someplace to buy
Usually,
beads?
most of them I get for donations. But for strings, I don't usually get string donations. I usually go to Michael's, and when I'm there, occasionally I buy some beads there.
Okay.
I usually vary so.
Are you careful to use the coupon when you go to Michael's? Do you know about the coupon at Michael's?
No, but he's got a couple jewelry mentors. Do you want to mention them?
Oh yeah, I mentioned your jewelry.
Can you tell us about coupon first?
I do want to tell you about the coupon. At Michael's, there are certain stores that when you go, you need to sign up to get the coupons. Or in the Sunday paper, each week there is a Michael's coupon that lets you buy something, usually between 40 to 50% off. I never go to Michael's without checking what the coupons are online. The last time I was at Michael's was 2 weeks ago, and the woman ahead of me was buying $110 worth of stuff, and I had the coupon online, and she didn't have the coupon, and it was for 30% off your entire order. And I said to her, you need to use this coupon. And she said, oh, I don't have it. I said, use mine. You're going to save a whole bunch of money. She took her whole family out to lunch on what she saved. So if you're going to buy things at Michael's, you have to use the coupon.
And take you out to lunch.
You can do that, but you don't have to. You can do something else with the money. But it'll save you a whole bunch of money if you're buying a lot of stuff at Michael's.
True.
It's a little tip from Shannon.
What about your mentors? Your two
tell me
jewelers?
about your mentors.
Tip from Cheyenne.
From Cheyenne. They were calling me Cheyenne earlier. So Jeremy and I were laughing about that. He's going to call me Cheyenne forever now.
That's right, Cheyenne.
I kind of like that. Cheyenne works for me. So tell me about your mentors.
There's one that passed away less than a year ago. Her name was Jane Marcos. She passed through cystic fibrosis. If you don't know about cystic fibrosis, let me explain. Cystic fibrosis is a lung disease, where you gotta get a lung transplant. most people with cystic fibrosis die in their mid-30s. She had it since she's young, very young, and basically she lasted until she's 42 years old, when most people with cystic fibrosis died in their mid-30s.
Wow.
She lived a very long life for having most of her life.
But still, it seems very young to have died. You must have
True.
been very sad when she died.
We were.
But it's been about a year now.
True.
I know when you and I went to see Logan Shepherd, your mom brought you, and Kelby and I happened to be there to hear him play on the drums. We talked about the fact that Wyatt, you're good friends with Wyatt, and that his dad was sick, and that you know a great deal about loss, and that you've been a really good friend to Wyatt about that, about what it's like, Have you had a chance to see Wyatt recently?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I heard that you guys were going to go jump on trampolines or something.
Yes, Sky has sports.
Well, I really want to thank you for being such a good friend to him, because I think he needs a friend really very badly right now. True. And a friend who understands that he's going through some emotions, having lost his dad. So you were telling me about your mentors, though. I got off on a tangent. Who else besides Shannon on a tangent? Cheyenne on a tangent. That's what I meant to say. So who are your other mentors?
There's one more. Her name is Jay Marcos.
No,
sorry, Nikki Michelle.
Okay.
And basically she's going to GIA, Gemological Institute, Carlsbad.
Okay.
And she doesn't get to be me right, but she's in Carlsbad with going to GIA, Gemological Institute of America.
Wow.
So I'll get you through, but when she's with me, she helps me a lot.
Very cool.
So it's a good possibility with the money that he's been earning and being able to save that he can do an online course and certification at the same school.
Wow.
When he graduates.
Very cool. Now, is this what you want to do when you're all done with school, is design jewelry and make jewelry? And so do you have plans? This is the school that you're going to go to. Do you have plans to go to college or anything after you get done with high school?
Community college.
Community college, okay.
Oh, I didn't know.
And what will you study when you're in community college?
I like to study about history.
Okay.
And maybe like some about, if it was a class about jewelry making, I'd take that. If not, then I'd probably just learn about the arts.
I love that.
Not really arts, but probably not about the arts, because if there's no jewelry, I'm not sure if I want to do it. I'd probably do history. And what else?
And you don't have to decide now. I always
I'm not sure, but I definitely want to learn about history, though.
Very cool. Now
we're not done. After I finish community college, I like to finish my rest of the years of college at GIA. Once I get better grades, I can do community college.
Okay. And so one of the things that you said was really important was how supportive your parents have been. How have your parents supported you?
I would say millions of ways, honestly. And that's no joke. It may be exaggerated a tiny bit, but I'd say a few 100,000 ways.
Okay, can you give me an example of one?
That's a tough one.
There's millions of ways, but you can't tell me one way?
Try to think of a very boring way.
What does mom do that helps you to make your jewelry?
She pushes me a good way to make more stuff.
Okay. Now, how does she do that? Does she remind you?
She just reminds me. She just use these as food as incentive.
Okay.
Which usually helps me have my iPad as incentive.
Oh, an iPad is a good incentive.
You have a jewelry teacher.
True.
What's her name?
Raquel.
Okay. And so where do you sell your jewelry, Jeremy?
All over the place.
And so if somebody wants to get more information, do you have a website for your jewelry?
No, I don't have a website, but I am on Facebook.
Okay.
You can find me at Jeremy, and that's my first name. My last name is Bernstein. There's 60 or 70 Jeremy Bernsteins with that same exact name. So if you want to find me, add me as a friend. Look, my profile picture shows me my glasses, these same glasses. It shows me the thumbs up and me on my front porch with black and white cat on me, and my dad's shoes hanging out front top of the picture.
That's your personal page. You just made a business page recently.
my business page. That's I would recommend something what I do not know on my personal page. So what I recommend you do is like and put some comments on my business page, which is JJ Jewelers. JJ is both cap. There's no dots,
Are you
and
ready?
then there's capital J, and I'm pretty sure the rest of it, everything is all caps. I'm pretty sure. If
Did
not, they will then just do capital J, two capital J's, one, and the next word one capital J, and the rest lowercase.
Can you show your shirt, what you made, and you've designed your new business
I'm sorry,
banner
my
and logo?
walkie-talkie. This is my logo right here.
JJ.
Basically, this is my jewelry business, and this is my logo that I designed and created myself after a few weeks of work with Mondo Rosales. He's a designer, and he does like superhero comic book drawings, and he also does logo and website design.
Okay, we need to take a break, and then we're going to come back more with Jeremy and Diane Bernstein. So stick
Okay,
with us.
bye everyone. See you next time.
Here, mid-swing on this wonderful day, this wonderful walk with Mr. Matt Asner. Talk to us about today's walk. Do we have any facts, figures, numbers, or just pure emotion?
Just pure emotion. I'm about to get the numbers. We'll see what it is.
Okay.
I think it's probably close to 1.6, probably. That's my feeling. But it's incredible. We had 55,000 people plus here today, and you know, honestly, I've been here 7 years. It gets better and better and better. So.
And really what you've fostered here today is hope. I know that's your favorite four-letter word.
Where are we without hope?
Where are we?
Really, I mean, seriously, where are we without hope? Hope is everything. Hope is eternal.
This is a pretty big event. Every year I love it. What does this event mean to you?
Well, I just think it's great that you see so many people coming out to support, autism.
So we're here with Max Burkholder. There's a whole community of people that are going to love you no matter what you do, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, and that's the autism community. Are you okay with this? Is this a good thing?
I'm pretty okay with it. This seems to be a pretty happy, supportive community.
Well, what did you learn about autism through portraying this wonderful character?
Sort of the individuality of it. Like with autism spectrum disorders, a tendency is to sort of generalize everybody with sort of the same degree of affliction as sort of exactly the same, and very generalize them a lot. But something I found while just talking to everybody, and that I tried to put into the characters, just the sense of individuality that all of them have, everybody has. And so at a certain point it became not really even portraying autism, it just sort of became portraying the character.
I want to say thank you on behalf of everybody for what you do.
That's very sweet.
To bring awareness and to raise money. That's a tremendous, tremendous legacy. But as a dad, you've got other things that you're doing as well.
Yeah.
I want to know, as a family, if you have any advice, what's been something that's been helpful to you personally?
Get your autistic kids out in the community. I mean, my son's got a guide dog, so he goes to a lot of cool places. He surfs, he skis, does gymnastics. He's actually trying Hebrew school. I'm not quite sure if he knows what's happening there, but he does all kinds of cool things, and he has a lot of friends. Right now, most of his friends are the adults who take care of him, and over time, hopefully he'll have more friends who are his age, and you'll see him walking around, and people won't be nervous around him. The dog's been very helpful with that. It's like the dog is like the most infectious thing in the world. Like, everybody wants to be near the dog, and he sees that, and he gets some of that affection laid onto him. So as a family, we're just there to support Tyler and make him happy.
Welcome back. Look who we found.
Look who you found in the hallway. Hey, Jeremy.
Hi.
Hi, Diane.
So nice to see you. We
I
love
know,
you.
I love you both.
I love you.
Oh, I adore you. I love this
adore
kid.
you also.
Oh. You know, and Wyatt just loves you. You're like a big brother to him, aren't you?
I know.
Yeah. When Diane and Jeremy come to my special needs ministry at Prince of Peace Church, which is the third Saturday of every month, and you love coming there and sitting with Wyatt, and you and Wyatt have done. You and Wyatt did an art show together just recently.
Oh, yes.
Remember?
Hey, why you say fight? I asked to have wine there.
What was that, honey?
You want to say I asked to have wine there?
You get to have wine there. You take communion. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, yeah, that little bit.
Yeah,
yes.
but it's got not even 21. That's a weird thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted to just ask about
wine is actually pretty good. I like the beer taste.
You do?
Yeah,
it's not bad. I like it too. I like wine too.
I just never tried beer, rum, and stuff like that. But I already tried that.
Yeah,
one
you're a
beer.
little young
some
for that.
kids might be watching this, so.
Sure. So let's not talk about that anymore.
Yeah, let's not talk about that anymore. But you know, when you get older, you can try that stuff. But I don't think you're going to like it much. Anyway, let's talk about some of the great awards and commendations that you've received, that you've gotten special things. And you know, Mom, if you want to jump in to remind Jeremy of all the great things that he's been given and awarded.
Starting with 2011, Jeremy, in Canada.
I used to explain that.
In 2011, you were the Internationally Autistic Award winner for your jewelry business. You hosted the show 3 times in Canada. You traveled 3 different Canada locations. You were in the mayor's office having a commendation ceremony for Jeremy Cecil Kira with his mom as Chantel with the Autism College, and also another friend, Cooper Barella, and one more friend, I think, also for that time period. And it was a while ago. We've had a lot of awards. And commendations since then.
What's your name?
You just were.
Adam Single?
No. You just recently were in Patty Lopez's office event talking to business entrepreneurs, and you were the only kid.
The only kid?
The only kid.
Wow, you were there with a bunch of grown-ups?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And sorry. And so just the shows.
I got it.
Okay.
Yeah,
That is something that
Dead.
comes up sometimes for you, Jeremy. Is sometimes you've had bloody noses. That is
Do you
true.
want a tissue?
I'm okay.
Yeah.
All right, sweetheart.
But pretty much this is show season time for you. We've got in the next 4 months about 4 shows, I'm going to say. So
and I've been there when I've been to many of your shows. You have quite a setup. That's a lot of work, isn't it, for you to set up your displays? And you do it all yourself.
And it really
don't you?
is a pain. My parents or my kids don't help me set it up.
It's your own design each time, and each time you do a different.
You guys can help me.
But you're so independent, and you know, you're so capable. And I remember when you were showing Wyatt one day how you set it all up, and you know, I was so impressed with how you don't really need help from a grown-up. You're so creative, and you do it differently every time. How do you decide how you're going to set it up?
Just comes from my imagination.
Love that. We had a viewer who wrote in and said how they loved hearing your beautiful voice, and that they want to know if you have an IEP coming up. And I know that you have something, you attend your own IEPs, right? And do you give input about what happens at your IEP meetings?
Honestly, I can explain some stuff. Basically, I'm working on getting more schoolwork done that's been improving. I used to have pretty bad grades. I had a lot of F's, those have been coming into C's and D's, and pretty soon I've been coming into A's and B's. One was almost nearly a B. That's environmental science.
Okay.
Wonderful.
It's a C+. And the best grade I've gotten now is Spanish. That's why I know so much Spanish. I got a B minus for that.
Oh, you know what? Wyatt would like to learn some Spanish. Maybe you
teach
could.
him.
Okay, cool.
You know with Spanish?
I know just a little bit, like como está, but he always asks me what is this word in Spanish?
So let me go and teach you some. Hola, me llamo Jeremy. ¿Tú?
Hola. It's all really. Como está? I'm sorry.
You know so little.
I
Honestly.
do know so little.
I thought
You hit the
knew
nail
more
on-
than that. That means hi. My name is Jeremy.
Oh.
And you.
And
E2 means and you.
E2, yeah. That's like in French, et vous. How do I say my name is Nancy? I mean, I should know that.
Hola, mi amo. Who is hi? You can just say mi amo Jeremy.
And just say mi amo.
Or you can say your name.
Nancy.
Mi amo Nancy.
Mi
And
amo
then you
Nancy.
say E2.
E2.
This and
Right.
you.
Okay, I got it now. I can remember that one. Now, Diane, Jeremy, you're at a public school? What school?
I'm at a non-public school.
Non-public school.
Yes.
Yeah, you're in a non-public school.
And he's very well supported there.
Okay, great.
Is there some supports and services there that are helpful, Jeremy?
Counseling mainly. It's been helping me with the stress moving.
Yes, it's very stressful having to move.
Yes.
But maybe as you get moved, that will help to calm down a little bit.
You know where you're going to be close to? Remember when you came to
Esther.
Special Spirits, where the horses are, where Wyatt's horse, the Big Moon and Mini Moon?
True.
You're going to be very close to there, to
Very
Ava. And you can go over and visit and do art over there, and you can visit the horses. And Wyatt and I can meet you and your mom over there. And Wyatt, you guys can still do lots of play dates and stuff.
I don't mean to be rude, like I won't wrap this up. Like quicker that we can go on their phone play Gosh Class.
All right, and in fact,
Cool.
we only have 2 minutes left. Kelby just told me in my ear that we
And you
only
know
have
what?
2
You're
minutes.
Yeah!
I would like to mention something in the Spanish-speaking community
Okay.
that is really popular right now, and that is Art for All Abilities in the city of San Fernando. I have an assistant that speaks Spanish, and they only charge $35 for 4 weeks. For if you're in the community, out of the community is $40 for 4 weeks. And we have a sensory break that we do in class, and it's a lot of fun. Shapes approach, good for all learning abilities.
And where should they go to get more information, Diane?
Okay, so the class is at Las Palmas at 4 o'clock on Thursdays. The sign-up, it's actually starting again this Thursday, would be the San Fernando Recreation Center, the one with the really cool pool over there.
Uh-huh.
That's where they sign up.
Okay,
Great. Okay.
wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being here. This was really, really fun, and we appreciate everything that you guys have
Yes,
shared with us.
you are just.
Bye, everyone.
You're a remarkable young man, Jeremy, and
Thank
you're
you.
a remarkable mom.
Oh, it just look at it takes us moms to know these moms and kids.
Okay, now I got to give a couple of programming notes about tomorrow because we're back tomorrow on the live show in the morning. In the first hour, we have Jean Nicole who's going to be joining us all the way from across the pond, as they say, to talk about the eating game. So that'll be wonderful. And then in our second hour tomorrow, we have this month's edition of The Future is Bright with Stephanie Schaefer. This is the hour that we do in conjunction with the Autism Society of America. Special guests on her show this week are Jason Cherry, who's a race car driver who's got scholarships, a scholarship program for siblings that have siblings on the autism spectrum. So you definitely want to check that out. And then she also has Michael Lever and Rose Yoakum are going to be with her talking about a new program, autism-friendly businesses, identifying them. We're out of time. Kelby is getting the hook.
Okay.
We got to go. See you tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves, yourselves a hug from me. Your
Yes.
kiddos and yourselves. whatever.
Bye.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Bye, everybody.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.